Hoy la tecnología está en contra mía. Desde la mañana he tenido muchos problemas de conexión, pero eh, creo que este fue un error muy mío. Una disculpa por ello. Eh, pero sí, el día de ayer, como les estaba diciendo, pero ustedes no me escucharon, eh, tuvimos una breve charla de lo que era los diferentes comités que conformaban a esta consulta y cómo es que fue posible que llegáramos a esto. Hoy vamos a ver un poquito más de ello y también vamos a tener más charlas como las del día de ayer, donde platicamos cuáles eran los principales problemas que aquejaban de manera local a nuestros países, a nuestras comunidades e incluso a Norteamérica. La verdad es que creo que todas nos quedamos con un excelente sabor de boca cuando escuchamos a nuestras compañeras y compañeros delegados, el poder ver, notar sus diferentes visiones, en realidad es muy enriquecedor. Y el día de hoy me gusta mucho cómo se llama la sesión de hoy, que es un poco de construir este conocimiento. Me gusta mucho porque justo en este momento tenemos que venir con la intención de hablar, pero también con la intención de escuchar. Siempre tener una escucha activa y respetar a las personas que están emitiendo opiniones diferentes. Todas y todos tenemos opiniones y realidades diferentes, incluso aunque seamos del mismo país. No es lo mismo que yo, por ejemplo, vivo en el Estado de México a una persona que vive en Yucatán. Entonces, lo mismo pasa con los diferentes países. Así que eso lo notamos el día de hoy y lo vamos a seguir notando. ¿Qué vamos a ver el día de hoy también? Aparte, la sesión de hoy, pues es el team de Construyendo Conocimiento y vamos a, ok, vamos a explorar algunas dimensiones de la justicia ambiental. Y vamos a tratar de entender cómo estas dimensiones atraviesan Norteamérica. En nuestra primera sesión vamos a ver estos equipos y este trabajo que han conducido las diferentes personas de México, Estados Unidos, Canadá, específicamente para esta consulta Fénix. Y para la segunda sesión vamos a discutir 3 áreas fundamentales de la justicia ambiental: bosques, océano y soberanía alimentaria. Y ya para el final vamos a tener una sesión de pod como la que tuvimos casi finalizando el día de ayer. Vamos a hablar sobre estos problemas de la injusticia ambiental, pero a nivel nacional. Entonces, cada quien va a hablar como de las respectivas jurisdicciones que involucran a nuestros países. Vamos a ir poco a poco, así que no se preocupen si de repente sienten que es mucho, poco a poco los vamos a ir guiando. Recuerden que tienen la libertad de sentirse cómodos, cómodas y también sentirse seguras y seguros. Cualquier duda que tengan, problema técnico e incluso un problema personal, pueden externarlo en el chat o comunicarse directamente con las personas que están coordinando. Si ustedes dan clic a la parte de participantes, se van a dar cuenta de que hay unas personas que son facilitadoras, que son moderadoras. Estas personas están a cargo de asegurar que ustedes se sientan cómodas y cómodos. Lo mismo, siéntanse con toda la libertad de hablar en la lengua, el lenguaje que a ustedes les plazca, en este caso, bueno, principalmente español, inglés y francés, porque tenemos esta traducción en vivo. Solo recordarles, como me pasó a mí, el tratar de no hablar muy rápido para que la traducción sea más efectiva, ¿vale? Entonces, fuera de eso, vamos a ir un poquito más adelante recordándoles que las participaciones que tendremos el día de hoy son muy importantes para el manifiesto de Fénix. Entonces, recuerden, esto, como lo dijo Albert el día de ayer, no solo se va a quedar en una conversación. Esperamos que esto llegue más allá, así que saquen todo de sí, externen esos problemas, esas soluciones, esas ideas que tienen en su mente a través de estas conversaciones, ¿vale? Entonces, el día de hoy vamos a hablar sobre los diferentes equipos. En este momento vamos a hablar sobre los diferentes equipos que hicieron posible la consulta Fénix, ¿vale? Entonces, voy a darle la palabra a Rebeca, que nos va a dar esta introducción y ella nos va a guiar alrededor de esta primera sesión. Y muchas gracias, Rebeca, por ello. Le dejo la palabra y un gusto verles. Adelante, Rebeca.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. My name is Rebecca Nellams, and my work is on eco-social empathy. And I'm also an associate with the International Institute for Child Rights and Development and associate faculty with the School of Leadership at Royal Roads University. It is such an honor to be here with you today. To begin, I want to acknowledge the lands where I'm joining you from, the ancestral and unceded Coast Salish territories of the Lekwungen and Kosopson families, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, on the northwest coast of Turtle Island, also known as Victoria, Canada. Today, as I speak, I honor the relationship of nurture, care, respect, and reciprocity that these families have had with these lands for millennia and continue to have to this day. I've learned that in many Indigenous languages, the word for land is not a separate, discrete word as it is in English. Instead, it refers to the entire ecosystem and all that lives within it. So as I acknowledge these families and the relationship with the lands, I also acknowledge their relationships with the waterways, the air, the trees, the plants, the rocks, the birds, and all of the creatures that live here, including the human ones. And I acknowledge that it's not enough to just say these words. The introduction of settler colonial lifeways has violently disrupted and continues to violently disrupt Indigenous peoples' lifeways and the lifeways of the entire ecosystem. And there can be no reconciliation without reconciliation also with the land and the ecosystem. The question of how we can all be part of a transformative shift from a culture of violence towards a culture of nurture, care, respect, and reciprocity is core to this entire consultation. In our pod yesterday, we spoke about how important it is for us as humans to work together collaboratively across countries, regions, and generations in the same way the elements of a healthy ecosystem work together. Recognizing that in nature, difference is not a cause for separation. Difference is necessary for the co-generation of life. We heard yesterday about how young people are affected differently by climate change, with factors such as race, gender, socioeconomic bearings, and accessibility as just some of those differences that come into play. As we continue to move forward together, it is essential that everyone and every young person is part of the conversation. This has been the central motivation behind the work of those from whom you're about to hear. Over the past year, teams of young people, adults, and elders who are activist and participatory researchers from across Canada, the US, and Mexico have been meeting on their own and with each other to ensure we don't just hear from the voices of those in the room, but from young people across the region and across differences. For some of the groups, this work is just beginning. And we bring to you today a presentation of the diversity of efforts we've been engaged in, and upon which we hope to keep building, inviting you all to join us in our future collaborative efforts. There's too many individuals and organizations behind this session for me to name and introduce everyone. In fact, I've never been part of a session that's had so many contributors behind it. So I'll just say I'm profoundly honored to introduce these teams. You will hear presentations from the researcher teams first in Canada, then the US, and then Mexico. And for the final portion of the session, we're going to move into breakout rooms by country so that we can hear from all of you. So to start us off, I would like to introduce the first of 3 teams from Canada. And we'd like to start with the French-speaking Canadian team. And I'd like to introduce Albert, Geneviève, and Yolanda Munoz to the platform.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if the interpreters are ready. Oops. Is my screen share working? Yes? Great. Bonjour tout le monde. Alors, moi, c'est Albert. J'ai participé à la préconsultation pour le Québec dans le cadre de mon travail à la Fondation David Suzuki. Je suis aussi un jeune activiste pour le climat, puis j'ai le plaisir vous me connaissez déjà, j'ai le plaisir de co-animer cette consultation hier, aujourd'hui et demain. On va présenter rapidement ce qu'on a fait au Québec. Donc, le Canada est séparé en différentes provinces. Il y a des minorités linguistiques, francophones, anglophones, allophones, qui parlent aussi des langues autochtones. Donc, nous, on a principalement travaillé dans la province qui est officiellement, en tout cas, on a travaillé au Québec, qui est la seule province majoritairement francophone au Canada, qui a quand même d'importantes minorités linguistiques, que ce soit en anglais ou dans d'autres langues. Donc, on souhaite d'abord commencer par reconnaître que notre travail a été effectué sur les territoires non cédés des nations Abénaquis, Anishinaabe, Atikamekw, Cree, Wendat, Innu, Inuit, Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, Ganyangeaga et Naskapi. Rapidement, donc, yes.
Albert, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I understand that we're having trouble with the interpretation. And I know everyone really wants to get to hear what you're saying. So I wonder if we could just take a moment and pause.
Yeah, of course I can pause. Sorry, everyone.
We're okay? Yeah, I think, Albert, if you wouldn't mind starting at the beginning again.
Parfait.
Thank you so much.
Tellement désolé. Sorry, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Donc, j'ai présenté le travail qui a été fait au Québec. Le Québec est la seule province à majorité francophone au Canada, mais qui comporte également d'importantes minorités linguistiques, que ce soit allophones, anglophones ou autochtones. C'est pour ça, dans le fond, qu'on a fait notre travail un peu différemment, puis de manière relativement séparée dans notre équipe. On voudrait d'abord commencer par reconnaître que notre travail a été effectué sur les territoires non cédés des nations Abénaquis, Anishinaabe, Atikamekw, Cree, Wendat, Innu, Inuit, Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, Ganyangeaga et Naskapi. Alors, notre travail a principalement consisté en l'élaboration d'une campagne de communication qui visait à rejoindre les jeunes. L'idée étant de collecter un maximum de témoignages sur le rapport que les jeunes du Québec entretiennent avec leur environnement. Donc, on a créé une campagne de communication en 2 volets. D'abord, avec un volet scolaire, donc qui cherchait à rejoindre les jeunes à travers les institutions d'enseignement primaire et secondaire, principalement. D'une part, avec des postes, on peut voir à gauche, êtes-vous enseignante? Donc, invitant les enseignants, enseignantes du primaire et du secondaire à faire des activités pédagogiques dans les classes. Donc, on peut voir ici à droite sur le PowerPoint les activités pédagogiques, dans le fond, qu'on a élaborées. On a élaboré 2 activités pédagogiques, une davantage centrée sur une réflexion, discussion plutôt philosophique à avoir en groupe en classe, avec un questionnaire que les élèves et les enseignants pouvaient remplir pour ensuite pouvoir nous transmettre les résultats de la conversation, puis nous rapporter ce qui a été exprimé par les élèves, les jeunes. L'idée était d'avoir des présentations qui pouvaient être faites facilement en classe, donc qui pouvaient être appliquées en seulement une période, qui n'exigeaient pas nécessairement de préparation, puis qui étaient vraiment simples à appliquer, un peu clé en main, si on veut utiliser cette expression, pour évidemment favoriser la participation. L'autre activité pédagogique était davantage centrée sur un volet artistique, donc c'était des dessins ou des productions artistiques visuelles. qu'on invitait les élèves à faire en classe, en nous expliquant, évidemment, il y avait toujours des mises en situation. Donc, par exemple, l'activité plutôt philosophique avait, par exemple, une vidéo d'introduction qui expliquait un peu avec des enfants, dans le fond, qui parlaient de leur relation à l'environnement, puis des effets des changements climatiques dans leur vie. Donc, tout ça, donc, on s'est assuré que ce soit facile à faire en classe, puis de manière à avoir une participation maximale, avec évidemment toujours des liens pour nous poser des questions, nos adresses courriels, etc. On avait aussi un volet plus grand public, donc qui consistait en une campagne de communication principalement sur les réseaux sociaux de la Fondation David Suzuki au Québec, qui a quand même un reach, une portée importante. Donc, l'idée était de parler directement aux jeunes en leur posant les mêmes questions qui avaient été posées dans les activités pédagogiques, mais en leur offrant la possibilité de répondre de n'importe quelle manière que ce soit.
Albert?
Ouais.
Albert, I'm so sorry to rudely interrupt you. It sounds like we are still having trouble with interpretation. So I wonder if we could do two things, just to pause, because we don't want people to miss what you're presenting and saying. So I wonder if we could do two things, to just remind people how to find the interpretation at the top of the screen. So Vanessa's just put information on the chat. So just right to the left of the CC bar on the top, you will see an icon. If you click on it, you can choose the language of your interpretation. We also understand that there's been some difficulty hearing anything in Spanish. And Yolanda Munoz had offered that she could do some brief translation with you. And I don't know, Yolanda, if you're suggesting you do that while Albert is speaking to facilitate.
Yeah, I could do. I mean, I am not an interpreter, but but I don't have the credentials. But I have also prepared my presentation in Spanish, just in case you wish to.
Okay. Okay. So after Albert finishes, you'll give your presentation in Spanish. It sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, and great. Probably that. But maybe what we can do is. I can give a brief in Spanish. I can give a brief presentation of what. O Albert, tú puedes decirlo en español también rápido.
After. Okay, ¿no? Great.
After, or we can prepare a Spanish brief and an English brief. No, I don't know.
Okay.
We're open. We are all three.
So let's try to continue, Albert, then, if you can. And thank you so much. And I apologize for the interruptions, everyone. And then Yolanda will speak in Spanish after. Thank you.
Okay, so I carry on in French. Is that it? I'm sorry. A lot has been said.
Yes. So you'll carry on in French. And then when Yolanda presents, she will present in Spanish, so that those that are not getting Spanish presentation can hear in Spanish.
Good. Donc, c'est ça, on avait un volet grand public qui invitait les gens à participer en soumettant des œuvres, n'importe quel type d'art, que ce soit, ça pouvait être des essais, davantage peut-être sérieux, juste des textes, mais ça pouvait être des dessins, des extraits vidéo, des poèmes, des pièces de théâtre, vraiment quoi que ce soit, dans le fond, dans l'idée que tout le monde puisse s'exprimer d'une manière inclusive, qui les rejoignent, qui soient fidèles à leurs idées. Donc, c'est ça, on a été capable de rejoindre quand même énormément de monde, mais il faut quand même préciser puis souligner que le contexte de la COVID a énormément compliqué notre travail. C'était non seulement difficile de rejoindre les écoles en fin d'année scolaire avec les délais qui nous étaient impartis, avec les campagnes de vaccination dans les classes qui ont fait en sorte qu'il y a énormément de temps qui a été perdu. Il y a aussi évidemment du retard qui a été accumulé durant cette année scolaire, là, plus que les autres, à cause de la pandémie, avec les périodes de quarantaine, quand il y avait des cas dans les classes. Donc, ça a été vraiment difficile d'atteindre les écoles malgré qu'on ait été capable de rejoindre toutes les commissions scolaires, qu'on ait reçu énormément de réactions favorables, mais aussi énormément de réponses de personnes qui étaient désolées parce que notre projet semblait extrêmement intéressant, mais que c'était vraiment impossible de le réaliser entre la mi-mai et la mi-juin dans la période d'examen à la toute fin de l'année. Puis je pense que c'est un peu la même chose pour le volet grand public. On a eu un couvre-feu très, très lourd ici au Québec. Je pense qu'on est le seul lieu en Amérique du Nord qui a eu un couvre-feu, en tout cas au Canada. Et je pense que quand les mesures ont été levées, ça a vraiment coïncidé avec le lancement de notre plateforme. Puis je crois qu'avec la fin de l'année, tout ça, donc on se disait que même nous qui sommes sur l'équipe, si on avait été des jeunes, ben, on n'aurait peut-être pas pris le temps de s'arrêter pour créer une œuvre sur notre rapport à l'environnement puis le soumettre à une équipe de recherche. Donc, sans plus tarder, je passe la parole à ma collègue Geneviève qui va nous présenter les résultats qu'on a obtenus durant cette consultation.
Bonjour, est-ce que je parle en français? Est-ce que c'est la façon de faire, Rebecca?
It is fine. It sounds like some of the translation is up and running, and perhaps I could just ask your team, because you are trilingual, to at some point recap a few words in each language so that those that were not able to hear some of Albert's presentation, maybe Albert, you could just say a few words in English and Spanish later. Thanks, Geneviève.
OK. Alors, bonjour, je m'appelle Geneviève Grégoire-Labrec et je suis membre du comité académique. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous présenter les 3 témoignages que nous avons reçus. Alors, le premier témoignage qu'on voit vient d'une personne de 12 ans qui a fait une bande dessinée pour parler de son lien avec l'environnement. Dans la bande dessinée, on voit une personne sensibiliser une autre personne à propos de la gestion des déchets. Donc, Emma explique à Carl les conséquences pour l'environnement d'envoyer un déchet au dépotoir au lieu de le recycler. Emma utilise des faits scientifiques pour soutenir son explication. Après avoir discuté avec Emma, Carl change ses comportements et est maintenant un allié dans la lutte pour réduire les déchets. Les solutions sont aussi incluses pour réduire les déchets, comme on peut voir à droite. Par exemple, acheter le juste nécessaire, récupérer et composter. Ne pas acheter des objets suremballés. Donner ou vendre des objets en bon état pour leur donner une deuxième vie. Acheter des objets avec des matériaux recyclés. Next. Notre deuxième témoignage vient d'une personne de 14 ans qui a écrit un essai pour parler de sa vision d'un environnement sain. Donc, un environnement sain pour cette personne, c'est un monde où règne la justice sociale et où les gens vivent en harmonie avec la nature. Pour y arriver, il s'agit de transformer le système économique actuel qui met l'accent sur la cupidité et la surconsommation. Par exemple, en voulant s'enrichir à tout prix ou en possédant des objets qui détruisent la nature.
Geneviève?
Oui. Oui.
I am so sorry again to interrupt everyone. And I want to just thank everyone so much for your patience as we're dealing with some technical challenges. I know the interpretation team is doing their very best.
Rebecca, we can't hear you.
I don't know what, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. I just want to thank everyone for your patience. We're just going to have to pause for a moment to give the interpreters a chance to see if we can work out these technical glitches. It's incredible that we have these technologies. And of course, we know that these glitches happen and are beyond anyone's control. So just really thank you all for your patience. And we're just going to take a few minutes to see if we can't work out some of the technical difficulties.
Quería comentarles, bueno, yo soy mexicana, pero vivo en Quebec, y la importancia de presentar en francés está relacionada con el multiculturalismo que hay en Canadá, ¿no? Es por eso que estamos haciendo este esfuerzo. Tanto Albert como Geneviève, como yo, somos trilingües, pero precisamente pensando en la diversidad y en la importancia de respetar la diversidad que hay, es por eso que estamos haciendo esto. Y bueno, parte de lo que yo voy a presentar, si hay tiempo, acerca de las acciones concretas que tenemos que tomar y sobre todo cuando estamos en un contexto regional donde hablamos una gran cantidad de lenguas, ¿no? No solamente francés, español e inglés, sino también todas las lenguas autóctonas que, bueno, en México son 56, nada más. Entonces, sí, es muy importante asegurarnos de que nuestro trabajo va a ser inclusivo.
Estoy completamente de acuerdo contigo, Yolanda. Y también lo pienso desde el momento en el que hago mi moderación en español, porque aunque no soy muy buena hablando inglés, estoy segura de que pude haber preparado una moderación en inglés, pero aún así sabemos que somos diferentes lenguas y al final no se trata como de unificarla, ¿no? Sino de hacer esta diversidad. No se trata de hacer que todo sea igual, sino, como lo había mencionado Rebeca, las diferencias son importantes. Eso me encantó porque justo es lo que nos hace a todas tan resilientes. En México la diversidad es inmensa y no me imagino México sin su diversidad.
Es cierto, México es tan rico en ese sentido. Sí, hay mucha apertura, ¿no? Y también aquí en Canadá hay mucha diversidad y hay gente de todas partes del mundo y vas en la calle y dices, pero ¿qué idioma estará hablando la otra persona, ¿no? Eso es muy, muy, muy interesante de vivir en Canadá. Y también al mismo tiempo, como inmigrantes, nos exige aprender las dos lenguas, ¿no? Nosotros también tenemos una responsabilidad como invitados en los territorios de la nación Kanien'kehá:ka, estar, bueno, aprender sobre la historia y las costumbres. Ser inmigrante también es una responsabilidad, ¿no?
Claro que sí. Pues sí, entonces al final lo único que podemos hacer es agradecer este esfuerzo, pero también entender las dificultades que puede traer consigo. Y pues claro que no es fácil, pero sabemos que este tipo de cosas se tienen que empezar a plantear ahora, ¿no? No podemos irnos por el camino fácil. Ya sabemos que irnos por el camino fácil no es la solución. Entonces, ahora lo estamos
haciendo. Parte de los obstáculos que enfrentamos todos los días como minorías culturales, ¿no?
Exactamente.
Pues estamos viviendo.
Mucho tus palabras, Yolanda, de verdad. Muy valioso.
No, de nada. No, estaba haciendo tiempo para los intérpretes.
Yolanda?
Yes?
Yolanda?
Yes, I'm listening.
Can you hear me, Yolanda?
No, this has been tested a few times too in my previous meetings you've had on this one.
Okay.
It's back channel.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We are going to need to pause. I think we're going to take a 5-minute break because we just need to give the interpreters a chance to work out some of the technical challenges. We really want to be able to hear our French-Canadian team in French and with full translation. So if everyone could just take 5 minutes, we're going to give the interpreter team a chance with the amazing tech team we have behind the scenes as well to sort this out. This is new technology for so many of us, and there's incredible teams behind the scenes making this work. And sometimes these tech challenges are just inevitable. So thank you to all of you in the behind the scenes working this out. And we will just take a 5-minute pause. And as Jocelyn was saying, maybe go take a drink of water, take a break, stretch, stand up, and please come back in 5 minutes.
Nos vemos entonces. Gracias, Rebeca.
think that we all need to give a huge round of applause to the interpreters, to the tech team behind the scenes who are just doing incredible work behind the scenes. Please, everyone, let's give them a huge cheers. This is incredible that we can all be meeting from across this region in this way and have live interpretation. It is incredible. I've never experienced it personally, and I teach online every day. So this is amazing technology, and thank you so much to everyone's hard work. To our first Canadian, our French Canadian team, I'm so sorry for the disruption of your presentation multiple times. Thank you so much for your generosity and patience. And I'd like to invite you to take the stage back. I do believe only portions of your presentations were understood and heard, so I don't know if it would be possible for you to briefly recap some of the key points that you made so that we don't miss out on your beautiful presentation. But I invite you back to the stage. Please, Albert, Geneviève, and Yolanda, and thank you so much for your patience, everyone.
Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you so much to all the interpreters. I'm reading in the chat that French to Spanish is not working. Is that correct? Sí, el francés hacia el español no está funcionando.
Not able to hear you, Albert.
Oh.
No, Albert, no podemos escuchar la traducción de francés a español todavía.
Okay. So French to Spanish is still not working. Is Rebecca the only one that's not hearing me?
Creo que no. Es un problema del audio de Rebeca porque creo que todos te podemos escuchar, ¿verdad? Pulgar arriba si pueden escuchar a Albert. We can hear you.
Entonces, pues quizá puedo resumir lo que hicimos hasta ahora y después vamos a seguir con la présentation en français de Geneviève. On peut commencer par, je vais juste résumer un tout petit peu en espagnol et ensuite on va continuer avec la présentation de Geneviève. Geneviève, est-ce que ça te va?
Oui, bien sûr. Yes,
Génial. Entonces, solo para resumir un poco lo que hicimos, empecé mencionando que estamos trabajando en los territorios soberanos de las 11 naciones que tienen su soberanía sobre el territorio que llamamos Quebec, que es una entidad colonial. Después expliqué que lo que hicimos fue una campaña de comunicaciones. Entonces, creamos actividades pedagógicas para que los maestros, maestras de las escuelas primarias y secundarias discuten con sus alumnos y alumnas de su relación con el medio ambiente en general, con la naturaleza y de los problemas que viven en relación con eso. Entonces creamos dos actividades para las escuelas, una más filosófica de discusión con un cuestionario al fin en que podían escribir tanto los maestros como los alumnos las respuestas a las preguntas de la conversación. Lo hicimos todo para que sea muy fácil de hacer en las clases, ¿no? Entonces, solo se necesitaban como un 60 minutos y se podía hacer muy fácilmente. Y la otra actividad era una más artística, entonces invitando a que los alumnos y las alumnas hagan dibujos y todo, contestando a nuestras preguntas y explicando muy brevemente el significado de su obra. Entonces, nuestra campaña de comunicaciones también tuvo un lado a la que solo invitando a la población general. Entonces, tras las redes sociales de la Fundación David Suzuki y las de muchas otras organizaciones con las que trabajamos, que aceptaron muy generosamente de compartir nuestro trabajo. Entonces, invitando a que los jóvenes solo nos comparten testimonios sobre su relación con el medio ambiente tras el medio que quieran. Entonces, puede ser ensayos o como textos, puede ser cartoons, puede ser dibujos, poemas, teatro, grabaciones de cualquier tipo. Entonces, verdaderamente lo que querían, todo era disponible en línea. Y el objetivo detrás de todo lo que hicimos era que todos se sienten muy cómodos de comunicarnos su opinión y sus sentimientos de la manera que más les conviene. Entonces, eso resume lo que dije y yo voy a dejar a mi colega Geneviève hacer su presentación. No sé si ahora la traducción, la interpretación hacia el español está funcionando desde el francés. Est-ce que l'interprétation en espagnol fonctionne?
Apparently we are having trouble with French to Spanish translation. So that is our technical challenge that's remaining currently.
Okay. So what I suggest is Geneviève just finishes with her presentation. I mean, you can start from the beginning, I believe, and do it in the language you want, and then we can translate it to Spanish. Like I can either Yolanda or I can summarize it in Spanish, if that's okay with you, Geneviève.
Yes, of course, but I can also say a sentence in English and maybe that sentence would be translated to for the time's sake. So I don't know if that is helpful.
That's very helpful for the translation side of things. And I apologize so much that we're having this difficulty. And thank you again to everyone working on it.
No problem. So I will just say that my name is Geneviève and I'm part of the academic committee, and I was presenting you 3 testimonies that we have received. The first one was coming from a person that is 12-year-old, and it was a comic strip. And we could see that in the comic strip, there was a person trying to raise awareness in another person related to the management of trash. So after this talk, the other person was afterwards an ally in the fight against the climate change and for reducing trash. And the person also added some solutions to help us reduce our trash. So that basically was what I said. I will move on with the second testimony. And this one I will say in French and maybe complete with one sentence in English. Alors, comme je disais, cette personne parlait d'un environnement sain pour elle. Donc, c'était un monde où règne la justice sociale et où les gens vivent en harmonie avec la nature. So, for a healthy environment, it's very important to have both social justice and to live in harmony with nature. La personne parlait de transformer le système économique actuel parce que ça met trop l'accent sur la cupidité et la surconsommation. So the person was talking about transforming the current economic system that puts too much focus on surconsummation, I don't know, overconsumption. Sorry, my English sometimes is a little weird. So overall, this person was saying that a healthy environment is based on humility, sharing, cooperation, and looking out for people around us. Donc, un environnement sain, c'est un monde basé sur l'humilité, le partage, la coopération et la bienveillance envers son prochain. Le dernier témoignage qu'on a reçu, the third and last testimony that we have received, est une réflexion menée en classe avec des élèves. It's a reflection that was led in class with students. Donc, les enjeux environnementaux qui touchaient les élèves sont très variés. Il y avait la pollution des océans, les sécheresses, canicules, feux de forêt, déforestation, extinction d'animaux, éco-anxiété. So the environmental issues that touched the students are very varied. You can see like ocean pollution, fire in the forest, and also eco-anxiety. Les actions menées par le groupe sont aussi très diverses. Beaucoup prennent le transport en commun, sont actifs, réduisent leurs déchets, font du compost, réutilisent les objets, font la récupération et le recyclage. The actions that are led by these students are also very diverse. They use local transportation, they're also active transportation, they are trying to reduce their waste and compost and recycle things. There are also important solutions that should be done right now, and these are to make up laws right now to help us fight climate change, is to finance the research and also increase green spaces, protected green spaces. Donc, ce qui aiderait les élèves à en faire plus pour l'environnement dès maintenant, c'est faire des lois maintenant, c'est financer la recherche, c'est aussi augmenter les espaces verts protégés. Enfin, les élèves tiennent à souligner l'importance de rendre les pays responsables de leurs actions, l'importance de la coopération avec les pays dits plus pauvres et l'importance de la collaboration avec les premiers peuples. Finally, the students would like to highlight the importance to have countries accountable for their actions, to the importance of cooperating with all countries, and also the importance of collaborating with the First Nation, Inuit, and Métis community. Merci. La parole à Yolanda.
Merci beaucoup. Bueno, en vista de las dificultades de traducción, voy a muy rápidamente decir lo que decía en español. Como les decía, yo nací en México y actualmente vivo en un territorio autóctono que nunca fue cedido y reconozco a la nación Kanien'kehá:ka como guardiana de las tierras y las aguas en las que actualmente resido. Yo colaboro con la Facultad de Derecho de la Universidad McGill en Montreal en el programa de investigación sobre acción climática inclusiva en materia de discapacidad o Disability Inclusive Climate Action Research Program. Y yo quisiera subrayar la importancia, como decía durante mis comentarios antes, de la diversidad en el contexto del cambio climático. Ciertamente la diversidad es un atributo deseable en toda sociedad y debería ser una parte fundamental de todo proyecto que concierne al conjunto de la población. La inclusión, entonces, es una obligación de los gobiernos, de todo ciudadano y ciudadana del planeta. Sin embargo, la palabra inclusión se utiliza a veces de forma únicamente simbólica y suena muy vacía para los sectores de la población más discriminados. Y esto lo digo como persona con discapacidad, porque yo uso una silla de ruedas. La inclusión no significa únicamente enumerar en un documento a los grupos identificados como marginalizados. Es preciso alentar y facilitar la plena participación de toda la población y reflexionar colectivamente sobre las razones estructurales de la exclusión social. El proyecto de sociedad con base en los principios de desarrollo sostenible debe estar comprometido con la eliminación de toda forma de discriminación y garantizar una transición equitativa hacia una economía baja en emisiones de carbono. Esto implica, por ejemplo, la accesibilidad física al transporte público para todo mundo, la creación de empleos en las industrias llamadas verdes o ecológicas, así como una actitud abierta para valorar el potencial de cada miembro de la comunidad para aportar soluciones en los retos relacionados al cambio climático. Para lograrlo, es necesario buscar métodos más eficaces para conocer la opinión y la situación de los jóvenes y los adultos mayores que están en situación de calle o que viven en zonas rurales o también, desde luego, que están en situación de discapacidad, así como todas las personas que no tienen acceso a las redes y a los sistemas convencionales de consulta. En resumen, es indispensable tomar en cuenta las desigualdades sociales en los procesos de consulta y en la adopción de medidas concretas para reducir los riesgos relacionados con la sequía, con las inundaciones, el calor extremo y la eventual escasez de comida y de agua potable. Más que nunca, los desafíos impuestos por el cambio climático exigen una inclusión real y el respeto de los derechos humanos como líneas de acción prioritarias. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup.
I would like to give so many thanks. I hope everyone can join me in applauding and thanking the French-Canadian team for just doing an incredible presentation, for the work that they're doing, and also for all of the patience that they showed in that session. And thank you so much. It was so important to hear what you had to share. And I know that people will want to follow up with each of the groups that you're going to hear from this morning, and we will find lots of ways for you to do that. So thank you again. Next, I am honored to present the second of the 3 Canadian teams. To present today, it's a video that the amazing Suzuki elders have prepared along with their incredible youth collaborators. So I will ask our tech team to please cue the video. Thank you.
My name is Patricia Plackett, and I am a member of the Suzuki Elders. We work with the David Suzuki Foundation to support other elders and younger people on environmental actions. We are very pleased to have an opportunity to contribute to this session today and would like to gratefully acknowledge that we are making our presentation from the ancestral and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples in Vancouver.
I'm Erlene Woolard, and I'm also a member of the Suzuki Elders. I will briefly outline the work with young people. A call to youth, building our future across generations, is focused on intergenerational dialogue towards finding climate action solutions and preventing future climate change impacts. We convened 5 focus groups involving a wide range of youth, both teens and young adults, reflecting on climate action, climate justice in the spring of 2021 using Zoom. We approached the issue as an intergenerational opportunity. We included those who were already activists and also those who wanted an opportunity to learn ways to speak up and join in. We involved the generations in interactive learning and sharing. We had sessions facilitated by UBC medical students, UBC Climate Hub students, and international business students. After the sessions, we invited the youth to express themselves in creative ways to capture intense emotions, thoughts, and solutions for our report for this consultation and beyond. You will shortly experience moving examples of this. All of our findings are being summarized in a full report.
I'll speak now very briefly about what we learned during the 5 sessions from the young people who participated. 4 themes emerged. First, they wanted to be meaningfully engaged in the planning and implementation processes for climate actions. Second, they wanted to see climate justice for all, especially those disproportionately affected by the adverse impacts of the climate crisis. Third, they wanted honest and evidence-based information about the health impacts of climate change and also about healthier options. And finally, they wanted the effective design, implementation, and monitoring of policies that would dramatically reduce pollution and would successfully create just transitions for workers. Now, 4 young participants from these sessions will tell you in their own way what they wish we pass on to the UN's Special Rapporteur for Human Rights and the Environment.
Hello, I'm Noah Oliver Pang. I'm 14 years old and I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada. I've grown up with the climate crisis. For most of my life, I've known the basic science of climate change, its causes, impacts, and some possible solutions, yet I have seen our situation worsen without enough hope for it to get better. I've written a poem about some of my experiences, thoughts, and opinions on the topic, which I will share with you now. When our lives are lost and the world on fire, will we see what some right now do not? When the seas are high and the lake beds dry, will we think of what our choices brought? When our plants decay and the islands fade, will we think of those we thought of not, or wish we stopped as we have not? Our forests burn, our seas all rise, all those precious now lost lives. We've known for long what dangers hide, yet those in power stood aside. In future, when we all look back, will we see this problem past? Will our world be blue and green, or will it just be smoke and ash? In present, we must choose our path to life and love, hate and cash. We must change ways and make amends for what we've taken from our land. Our children must get what we have, not a world that's burnt and bland. We must take care of what we have to fight for our lives, sea and land. Indeed, what I ask for is hope, that our world will not end in one that is burnt and bland, and a path towards a better future, one where I and others my age have the power to contribute to solutions, and one that knows that the climate crisis can and will be solved. Thank you. Bye.
My name is Arista Marthman. I'm 18, and what climate inaction means to me is that I'm worried about having kids. I don't want to bring children into a world that my generation and the generations before me are destroying. And I don't want them to be threatened by forest fires. And I don't want them to be unable to go outdoors in the summertime due to the insane heat that we've been experiencing. And while I want to have kids, I would rather not have them than force them to live in a world that's dying. And I know that other women feel the same way because I've talked to them. And David Boyd, what I need from you is I need you to represent us to people who can make decisive climate action happen, because we want to make this decision without fear.
Hello and welcome to my climate change story. I recently got resettled to Canada, Vancouver. Prior to that, I was living in a refugee camp for 13 years. I came to Canada alone as a teenager at the age of 18. Because I was living in a refugee camp, I did not have the chance or the capacity to learn about climate change and its impact on my physical, mental, spiritual health, and well-being. When I arrived in Canada, I did not receive any orientation regarding the climate change emergency and ways to mitigate it through day-to-day practices such as sustainability and household waste management. I first learned about climate change at the age of 19 when I took a One Health and Planetary Health class at the university. In this class, I learned about the effects of climate change on generations to come and other contemporary environmental disasters that we are experiencing that can be attributed to climate change. This class also made me reflect on my past experiences in the refugee camp. I reflected on the constant droughts that we're experiencing in the refugee camp, food insecurity due to harsh weather and heat waves, rising children malnutrition and declining mental and physical well-being, rising asthma attacks due to dry environments and dust. Is this an environment that you would want your children to grow up in? Because if you do not take action now, the rest of the world will end up in this situation. I also reflected on the flood that I once witnessed, and I asked myself, was that a rise in sea levels? A flood that left thousands of people homeless and internally displaced. A flood that gave rise to infectious diseases for people living in emergency shelters. A flood that engulfed houses, crops, animals, arable land, soil, and peace. Is this an environment that you want your children to grow up in? Because if action is not taken now, the rest of the world will end up in this situation. These are a few action items that can be taken in order to save the planet and the environment. Implementing non-partisan policies on climate action for refugees and immigrants, and also a greater public education about a just society for all. Take climate action today. Your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will thank you. Set a great precedent in environmental justice for the generation ahead of you to follow. Thank you.
David Board. Before I head into who I am or my story, I want to share the last two stanzas of a poem I wrote about the climate crisis. I will try to keep you in the palm of my hand and protect you from the humans who have done everything to harm you and nothing to help you. It is the hands before mine that have inflicted pain, made humanity inhumane and animals unanimalistic. But through it all, I will keep you in the palm of my hand, and I hope my hands will not become sore from carrying you, and hope that my hands will not be alone in carrying you. But one day I hope that you'll not need to be carried anymore. My name is Naisha Khan. I'm an 18-year-old climate justice organizer with the group Sustainability Teams as a central organizer. We aim to provide youth the agency to take action in the Lower Mainland. I'm also a co-founder of Banking with a Better Future, which is a national campaign to call on the big 5 banks of Canada to divest from fossil fuels. I've been doing this work since I was 16 years old. And through it all, I have worked tirelessly to promote the message that youth feel an intense need of urgency to fight the climate crisis. We demand strong, tangible climate policy from governing bodies that address how urgent this crisis is. We need to unite and work together to fight this catastrophe, especially for the marginalized folk who not only suffer from a crisis of climate, but a crisis of equity too. David Boyd, I urge you to utilize your powers as a rapporteur to help me and other youth protect the planet. Make it more than just another avenue for economic growth, but a safe, habitable planet for all. Thank you.
Interested from a wide range of youth and elders in conversation over several months. The power of the themes note has been amplified by the creativity of those youth who have just experienced. They are strong expressions of urgency and hope that those in power will listen and will engage in dialogue and action to build a better world than the world to which we seem to be drifting. Remember, it is their world from which we are born, and we need to pass it on in much better shape than it is now. While working on this, I had a visit from my teenage granddaughter. In a very few minutes, she put together the graphic expression with which we will close this segment. Watch and think about the unheard voice. Hear it and act.
Wow, thank you so much to the Suzuki elders and the incredible youth that collaborated with you in your engagement. That was very moving, emotional, and powerful, and thank you so much. Yes, please join me, everyone, in offering some words of praise and feedback to the Suzuki elders and their youth collaborators in the chat, in the emojis. Thank you. I'm seeing that. And I know that many of them are here during this consultation, so they will look forward to hearing from you throughout the consultation and you following up and getting in touch with them. Next, I would like to invite Wendy Liu to briefly introduce the next video of the third Canadian group and last Canadian group, which was a youth participatory action research training group, of which I had the honor of being a part. Wendy, are you able to turn your microphone on?
Hi. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, perfect.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Hi everyone, my name is Wendy and I had an amazing chance this summer to participate in YPAR, which is Youth-Led Participatory Action Research. This led us to gather weekly all across Canada and even Mexico. We had like a participant from Mexico itself to learn about research, participate in meaningful yet critical conversations amongst each other about our interests in research and different ways to do this. YPAR has allowed us to pursue our interest in research while making voices heard, ultimately supporting us with our research interests and goals. We were able to participate in various research exercises per session, aiding to cultivate our skills, including participating in exercises such as World Cafe and Rapid Research. This next video introduces you to the team, to some of the wonderful ideas participants have for their research projects across a range of environmental issues. Thank you.
In the lead up to the consultation, we decided as a team to co-facilitate 5 YPAR live training sessions and recorded 7 modules that anyone can access on the live YPAR interactive website. As we recognize that young people have been at the forefront of climate activism, YPAR offers a further opportunity to engage and amplify the voices of youth in the pursuit of climate justice. Our goal in facilitating YPAR training was to support and provide tools for young people to conduct their own research, to identify priorities, and determine the actions that need to be taken regarding climate change. YPAR also offers the opportunity for young people's evidence-based research to inform decision makers and advocate for the right to a healthy environment. YPAR encourages young people's social political development and empowerment so that they can better grapple with the underlying causes of climate justice, have the skills and drive to take action whilst engaging diversity in the process.
Hi, my name is Evan. I am 10 years old and I conducted my research on why kids care about climate change.
Because of climate change, there are more floods and forest fires, and the ice is melting in the icy places, and there's more acid in the seas.
Because if we don't care about it, then probably everything is gonna rot away and stuff. A lot of things, all are probably gonna die.
Because I feel like it's an important thing for everyone.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a summer program right now. High school students are getting together and learning how to garden and live a sustainable lifestyle and farm.
I do my best to keep my carbon footprint low. I go on public transit a lot. I've been working on walking and biking everywhere.
Save our planet. Save the planet!
My name is Maya Joel, and the research I have conducted is about COVID, climate change, and its relationship with youth mental health. So this is the poster board I've created. It's kind of hard to tell, but Essentially what I did was conducted a survey face-to-face between two groups, so a junior B lacrosse team and an inner city drop-in youth center. I asked 5 broad questions regarding anxiety and depression and its relationship with COVID and climate change. And I found that the kids in the inner city typically had less interest in the climate change and had an increase in negative COVID effects. So that's where you kind of see more of the mental health issues as opposed to upper middle class kids who have a healthy living environment, etc., etc. This is currently short-term research, and I hope that I can continue this in the long term so I can look at the effects of post-COVID and our currently continuously changing environment, and I want to make a difference in that way as well.
Hi, my name is Wendy. For my research project, I was interested in the living environment and conditions of youth in respect to virtual learning, such that there are youth of various socioeconomic statuses which can impact the environment that they're living in. For my research question, I narrowed it to how are youth impacted by their living environment and conditions during the pandemic of virtual learning. This can include access to clean water, food, and so forth. Furthermore, I'd like to focus this project within Canada, as many youth have experienced forms of virtual learning this past year. To gain answers and to listen to voices of what youth have to say, I'd use social media to connect and interview with them. The outcome of this is to be able to provide recommendations for youth and adults, as well as what the Canadian government can do for these youth and families through listening through the youth's positive and negative experiences.
Hello everyone, my name is Trisha May Capistrano, and I'm going to be introducing the Youth Participatory Action Research Project that I'll be conducting over the next few months. So as I'm sure all of us did not miss out on, we are experiencing a heat wave in Canada that peaked a couple weeks ago. I was interested in learning what kind of impacts this experience had on young people. And so my research question is, in what ways do youth feel they were impacted by the recent heat wave? Through this project, I hope to better understand how youth feel that heat waves might generally impact their rights, such as their rights to health, food, water, etc., particularly as the heat waves may worsen over time due to climate change. To answer the question, I plan to conduct focus groups over Zoom with approximately 20 youth ages 18 to 25 in Vancouver and Montreal. Each call will be approximately an hour and a half long and will simply involve an open discussion about folks' personal experience with the heat wave.
Hello, my name is Isabel from Prince Edward Island, Canada, and after my youth participatory action research training sessions, I've decided to do a long-term research project in the environmental field. I plan to firstly approach members of my community and then reach out to members of our country to get their opinions on what are the biggest environmental crises and how we can help protect the Earth. My vision is to eventually educate communities on global warming and environmental issues such as deforestation, plastic pollution, carbon footprints, and so much more. My method of research being used will be individual methods, favoring survey as my main option. I would like to have 3 different age groups participate in my research project in order to compare generation to result and knowledge. The first group being 11 to 30 years old, the second group being 31 to 60 years old, and third group being 61 to 80 years old. With the results of the research project, I would like to advise our members of the Legislative Assembly in hopes that they will help address our concerns. I realize it's going to take some time, but I look forward to what the future has to offer, and I wish nothing but the best to all other participants in your individual or group research projects. Thank you and have a great day.
Actualmente estamos pasando por la peor sequía que ha tenido México en 58 años. Pueblos rurales de la región se están quedando secos y desde 2018 estamos consumiendo más agua de la que pueden mantener nuestros ríos y acuíferos.
Hi, I'm Antar calling in from Mazatlan, Sinaloa, and what you just saw is some of the previous work that I've done in my community and the starting point for the YPAR research project that I'll be working on over the next few months to a year. The main focus of this research project is drought in rural communities. I want to explore both anthropogenic and natural causes, how the communities have been affected, and what solutions they've implemented, as well as identifying possible areas of opportunity. Working with a non-profit in my region called Conselva, we've identified associations and communities I'll be working with. I wish to invite you, who's attending this consultation and interested in making a change, to collaborate with me in this investigation. I've set a strong base for the project, and the knowledge gained from this will be much more significant if it is gathered from all across North America, from southern Mexico all the way to Canada, as a lot of territory at all latitudes have suffered from similar droughts. It is very possible that what we gather could prove to be crucial in aiding certain communities, presenting it as an academic paper and possibly publishing it in a youth and environment magazine. I urge you to remember what we as young people can accomplish, and to not let what we discuss in this consultation remain only a spoken word. I'll leave my contact info in the chat, and please don't hesitate to contact me if you're at all interested in the project.
Hey, today we're going to be talking about climate justice. I think all children should have rights to help the environment, especially children with disabilities like me. And remember, every voice matters on this earth, and everything you do to help the environment helps the planet. No earth destruction. And remember, see you guys next time. Bye!
Thank you so much to our YPAR team, the last of the 3 Canadian teams. It was such an honor to be part of this group, and we're really just getting going, as you can see. So we're inviting everyone here to get involved with us moving forward as we keep working collaboratively together across generations with this incredible group of young people. So those were the 3 Canadian groups. And next we're going to turn to the US and to introduce the American groups that have been doing early engagements. I would like to introduce Jonathan London, and I will let you introduce yourself, Jonathan, and the members of your team. Over to you.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos, bienvenue. It's so good to see you and to hear the amazing work that's happening in Canada and its extensions in Mexico. I'm dialing in from Davis, California. In my area, it's the ancestral and unceded lands of the Winnemem Wintu Patwin people. And we're going to have 3 presentations. One will be showing a story map from groups throughout California. The other will be a set of narratives based on young people and young adults in the Sunrise Movement. And then we'll have a range of presentations from environmental justice organizations in Northern and Central California. So I'm going to turn to our first presentation, Emily. Hopefully you're here. I can't see the full list of participants who will start us off. So please, Emily, join us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emily O'Brien. I'm a CSUMB California State University at Monterey Bay student, and I worked with my professor, Victoria Durr, in this project, and we asked youth ranging from second graders all the way up to 25, and we asked them about, in their communities, environmental issues and injustices that they are facing. We also added another question into that, asking them if they know of any actions being taken. So I'm going to go ahead and present right now. Okay, here we go. I'm not going to read all of this because it is a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you a gist of it. A lot of the participants that we had, it ranges. So we have a lot of participants in California since we asked a a lot of our students and like my peers and everything, we reached out to other groups as well, ranging from Mexico, Guatemala, the Navajo Nation, Charleston, and Hawaii. And overall, there's a lot of environmental issues. Then they all range from degradation through pollution, invasive species, poor development choices, and need of hazard planning. And this just reflects the environmental justices and the sting of environmental hazards or failure to protect human health. So this first presentation, or first picture that I'd like to show you guys, is from Mr. O's second grade class in Charleston, South Carolina. And I love the take that he did. He had the students draw their environmental injustices or issues that they see. That was a great way to present it. Oh no, it's a little blurry, but I'm going to read it to you. So it says, "You used to be a big, wide open marsh full of fish and shrimps for us to eat, and with cool, beautiful water for swimming and church baptisms. Without your grasses and pluff mud, you can't hold on to the flood waters for us like you used to. We know why you matter and why our community matters to you." This presentation is in regards to the Gardsden Creek, which is a tidal creek that has significantly diminished in size and quality over the years. And it involves, it has a predominantly African-American public housing placed on top of it, which is causing issues for the people that live there. Next is Sarah. She lives in the Navajo Nation, and the Navajo Nation is facing water inequality and pollution from oil and natural resources being mined and hunted for. And there was a oil spill. It was the Gold King oil spill a few years ago, and it's caused major issues with the water, which the Navajo Nation and Hopi tribes, apologize for pronunciations, the Hopi tribes use to water their crops. So the crops that they were able to produce have diminished significantly, and they're only able to produce a small amount. Another big issue that we've seen throughout the previous presentations, and you'll see through this one as well, is wildfires, the increase in heat and fires that end up destroying a lot of homes and wildlife areas. Another one is air inequality or air quality, specifically in Southern California. That's where we mostly saw students reporting back that the air quality is not great. So we've got Los Angeles, we've got Irvine, Bakersfield. Next would be the, this one's going to tie together with invasive species and also pollution into the oceans. So here's a picture of some sea urchins that have completely just taken out all the kelp that used to thrive right there. Kelp is very important for the oceans. They provide oxygen, and they provide shelter for other species of fish and protection, and the urchins have just taken them out. In regards to the ocean, there's also otters, and this is Monterey Bay, known for otters. they, not specifically just to otters, but there's pollution as in regards to trash that gets in there, and then they end up being filled with toxins and everything. Man, I'm nervous, you guys. Whew, I am so sorry. Pollution on the beaches is, and like I said before, because I'm very nervous, seems to be one of the major issues that the participants had reflected on. And again, we've got wildfires that devastated California, air inequality, invasive species, and pollution. So the Sacramento River is dealing with some major pollution. There's a lot of homeless that are living along the river, trying to survive, and it's collecting a lot of trash. And I think recently needles have been found in the river, and so it's very important that we start cleaning it up. Clear Lake in Lake County, California, used to be a silver mining town, and the mines have been abandoned and are starting to leak into the water, and it's not safe to swim in. Sinkholes due to major droughts, and then like flash floods causing the land to wash away. Many earthquakes are starting to happen in Mexico. I would try and pronounce the city, but I'm afraid I'm going to butcher it, so I'm going to bypass that. The earthquakes are causing, they can't control earthquakes, but the earthquakes are causing buildings to fall down, pipes to burst, and the remnants of the buildings wash into the waterways, causing the waterways where the community members get their water to not be able to drink their water because it's polluted now. Also, more, this is a place where people live along this river, and the student used to travel through, like just wander, because she had a lack of state, national, and community parks for her to adventure into nature. So she would travel through this canyon, and now she went back to this canyon, and it's filled with people just trying to live, but it's also causing pollution into the waterways. Hawaii is also experiencing some major litter in areas. And the student is actually trying to take charge and help out. She lives on Oahu, and she's taking charge and performing beach cleanups. And she works with the organization called Relief for the Reef. And they're working tirelessly to try and clean up the beaches on Hawaii, which will therefore help the ocean and the planet in the long run. Many of these participants did experience, or they tried to look for ways that the government or the community is trying to help. And many were able to find some, but they didn't find that they were adequate for taking action. So the actions definitely need to be looked at and reevaluated, and bigger steps need to be taken. And from here, I'm not sure if we're going to go to Sally or Brandon, but I'll hand it off to you guys.
I think we're going, yeah, I think we're going to me. Thanks for that, Emily. That was fantastic and so beautiful. It's great to hear the work you did. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sally Neese. I'm a PhD candidate at UC Davis in their geography program. My gender pronouns are she and her, and I am speaking with you all from the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, which is unceded Chochenyo Ohlone land. Yeah, and so what I'm going to be sharing with you all this morning, I didn't have an opportunity to do a full-on pre-consultation, but my dissertation research is really relevant, and so I'm going to be sharing with you all about that. And I'm just going to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. Let's see if that does it. Okay, hold on 1 second as I get this in presenter view. Okay, let's see if that's going to work. Okay. Great. Are people seeing my screen? Could you nod if you're seeing my screen?
We are seeing the presenter side. You might want to swap monitors.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do that.
If you go see where it says display settings in your presenter view.
Okay. So,
Is it swap?
It's not letting me do that. Let's see if I can, let's see what my options are. Hide presenter view? All right, well, I'll just go without the notes, so hopefully I don't talk all over the place. Yes, okay. So actually, let me just back up. So I mentioned I'm a PhD candidate at UC Davis in their geography program, and my dissertation research is regarding youth climate activism and climate education. Really, what I'm trying to understand is how can we best support young people in engaging with climate change through education? And so what I've been doing is I've conducted a series of oral histories with climate activists, all based in the California Bay Area, in the San Francisco Bay Area, excuse me. Yes, I've conducted a series of oral histories with these climate activists to understand really what brought them into activism, and then thinking about how we can use education to support that. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be sharing with you all, you know, these are oral histories, so these are story-based. And so I'm going to be sharing with you all just like a bit of the narratives that I've collected regarding the pathways into activism, and then some of the themes I'm kind of seeing in terms of how we can think about this in terms of education and climate pedagogy. And so, yeah, just to give you a glimpse of who these activists are, I've collected a total of 20 oral histories, and these activists are aged 18 to 24 years old. In terms of racial breakdown, fairly diverse. You can see at least over half of these were done with people of color from different backgrounds. And then in terms of gender and sexual orientation, over half of the members were a part of the LGBTQ community. And then about half of them came from working class backgrounds. So 8 were from working class backgrounds, and then 12 were from upper or middle class backgrounds. And just so you know that the names have been changed in this. And yeah, really, again, what I'm just going to be sharing with you all is kind of, you know, these are cursory findings at this point, just bits of narrative that are grouped around themes that I've identified in these oral histories. So the first thing I've learned is that the way we're approaching climate change in our educational systems can be really disengaging for youth. First of all, nearly all of the activists that I talked to spoke about learning about climate change through really science-based framings that were pretty kind of technologically oriented or scientifically geared, and tended to kind of, you know, present to them the problem without a lot of visions for change or talking about how we move beyond this. And this was really disengaging to the youth I talked to. So, oh, actually, once I need to move this so I can, oh, it's going to be difficult. Sorry, I can't read the full quote because oh, it's not letting me move this. 1 second. My picture of myself is blocking my screen, so I can't read the full quote. Well, maybe I'll let you all read the quotes and I will just kind of give some context to them. So for this first quote we have from Dee, one of the activists I organized, and they talked about learning about climate change in high school and it be kind of vague, scientifically framed, and wasn't something that they could really engage with. Oh, is somebody trying to tell me something? No? Okay. I'll keep going. I just want to give a shout out to Rebecca and the tech team. You all have done a fantastic job, by the way, on that front. Okay. So going back to this, on the one hand, this can kind of just, so for Dee, this wasn't what they learned in school, wasn't something that really drew them in and helped them feel like, oh, wow, climate change, this is something that's really compelling and something that I want to take action on. But on the other end, this can, the way climate change is being framed in schools can just flat out disengage youth altogether. This woman, Martina, had a story about engaging, you know, she was really interested in climate change. She started a major in that in college in environmental policy and planning. And then through really learning about climate change and just was pretty overwhelmed with how big the problem was and how they weren't really hearing much talk of solutions. And as a result, she became really apathetic, really overwhelmed, and dropped out of that major. And then, as we'll hear from Martina later, she was only able to reconnect with it when she joined an activist group. So when it was kind of framed in an action-oriented political collective action framing. So that's a bit about that. The other thing, which really should come to no surprises us, is that climate change can be really traumatizing to young people. This is true. I mean, and this is true for me. I feel traumatized by this issue. And I think that's really important for us to consider as we're thinking about education. And so we have a story from Jacqueline, who, when she learned the full extent of climate change, really threw herself into a deep depression to the point where she really felt like what I would call nihilism. Nothing really matters. This problem is so big. There's nothing I can do about it. And does anything even matter? And that was similar for Philip, as you can see here in the bottom, who talks about getting super depressed. Just, you know, he really shared a story of just reading and reading and reading about the scope of climate change, how massive this problem was, and the fact that there wasn't, he felt like there was no action being talked about in his classes. And as a result, I'm really struck by what he said. I used to just have that as undergirding anything that was happening to me at any moment. Like, if I was awake, I was suddenly worried about climate change. And this is true for a lot of the young folks that I interviewed. Nearly all of them talked about some period of intense depression, despair, nihilism, anxiety around climate change. And one thing that's even worse is that this isn't necessarily being taken seriously by the adults that are around them. Jacqueline shares about how, oh, I'm getting an echo. Let's see if that stops. Okay, that's mostly stopped. So Jacqueline, who on the previous slide was talking about the depression she felt when she learned about the scope of climate change, talked about how when she went to adults with this problem, they kind of dismissed it and said, you know, you're worrying too much, it's being taken care of. And her anxiety, which I believe is really warranted and is a rational response to this problem, is not really being taken seriously by the adults around them. And so this is something, as we're thinking about education, I really encourage us to all consider. And then another thing that I've learned that was really apparent through these narratives is that for all of the young people I interviewed, you know, like I mentioned, they all went through this period of despair, but then the way that they were able to transform that despair is when they engaged in a political action-oriented community. So when climate change was held in community and when they were taking collective action and not individual action, there's a really important distinction there. A lot of these young people were doing individual actions like riding their bikes, you know, trying to like not eat meat, that kind of stuff. But those didn't seem to meet the scale of the problem. They really needed to be in collective action with other activists and that helped them transform their despair into, you know, feelings of hope and feelings of empowerment. So this was true for Martina. This was the woman who dropped out of her environmental policy and planning major because she just felt too overwhelmed by the problem. After that, she spent the next few years intentionally avoiding environmental issues and specifically climate change. And then when she moved to the San Francisco Bay Area, she joined a dance community that was very politically involved. And that helped her get back involved with the issue of climate change. And this was similar for Philip, who also was majoring in environmental studies in college.
Sally,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We just need to make sure we're keeping to the 10 minutes we've been given for each, just to give you a time check.
Thanks, Jonathan. This is my second to last slide. So yes, and this was true for Jacqueline as well. You can see there's a quote from her at the bottom. We'll skip this just in the interest of time. And then I'll just wrap up by kind of highlighting just some considerations in terms of education. As we are thinking about climate education, I really encourage us all to consider the end goal. So most often when we're thinking about climate education, we're focused on just informational learning, the idea that if we tell people about climate change, they'll do something about it. But in these testimonies, I learned that really caused, that was really disengaging for youth. And instead, I think we need to be thinking about how we can engage them in collective action around climate change. And if we are to do that, the education we're involving youth is going to look a lot different. And one thing I really encourage us all to think about is how we can also help young people kind of grapple with these big emotions around climate change. I think with that, I'll just end so that we all have time. Thank you all so much, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I will stop sharing my screen. Oh, whoops, that did not stop sharing my screen. Here we go. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sally. Sorry to jump in on you there. We're pressed for time. Again, hello, everybody. Jonathan London, I'm faculty at the University of California, Davis. Joined by my colleague today, Brandon Louie, also with the Center for Regional Change, and Irene Kalimlim from Fathers and Families of San Joaquin. So our group created one consultation experience, kind of a multimedia, multi-organization experience with a number of organizations to really try to understand what were the key issues that were really motivating and in some cases upsetting and angering, but also inspiring environmental and climate change action. And what were the kinds of, thank you, Brandon, what were the kinds of actions that people were working on, and then what sort of supports would they need to be able to accomplish that kind of work? Next, please. So these are the three organizations that we worked with: Central California Environmental Justice Network, that works throughout California's San Joaquin Valley, which is both the wealthiest agricultural region by some measures in the country and even the world, but it's also a site of massive environmental contamination in air and water and land, some of the poorest people in the entire country, and greatest inequality. And you can see here the names of all the individual youth. We also worked with an organization called Breakthrough Communities that works throughout the state on sustainable development and social equity based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then an organization called Fathers and Families of San Joaquin, and a number of other partner organizations, Restore the Delta, and then an arts and culture organization with Our Words, We Flow Radio. And you can see the names of those individual young people there as well, and young adults. Next, please. So I'm going to now turn it back to the organizers for a moment to play the video. Hopefully that will be easy to queue up. This is a video by a spoken word artist named Minaya Joy, who kicked off our event in a really powerful way with the spoken word piece about climate change and climate justice and youth perspectives. So please enjoy.
So I'm really pleased that we're joined by Minaya Joy, who's also the current All-City Poetry Slam Grand Champion. I'm gonna pass the mic to Minaya to do a little something for us.
Thank you. All right, here we go. When I was little, I had to use a nebulizer to breathe. I'd sit on my mother's lap and she'd wave the plastic tube around my face and nose like it was a magic word. And the hum was its song and the steam was its spell, granting me the precious gift of breath. We had moved to Stockton when I was barely 1, the valley that some called a bathtub, so I wasn't quite used to the pool of pollutants that I would now call. So when I was exposed to the smoky, industrialized, pollen-filled air, I was inhaling RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, precursor to asthma. Not full-blown, but still in need of an inhaler to help me blow air in and out. Not like the 105,000 kids in the Central Valley diagnosed with actual asthma, just like precursor, like preschool, learning early about the fish that swim through the waters of the Delta and the blue herons that play hide and seek in the tule rods, learning about the crops that grow in the rich soil. But too many young lungs learn from experience that asthma grows here too, and they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to learn that their home ranks #1 in California for worst air quality and 45th in the nation. They shouldn't have to pretend that their climate isn't contaminated. Rather, they should be learning how their climate can change. And climate change begins with them. It begins with them. And in rooms that include them, and in programs and solutions created for them. So as long as we keep them in mind and figure out ways to protect them, then maybe we can all breathe a little easier.
Wonderful. Thank you to play that, and thanks again to Minaya for gracing us with that. I'm going to turn now to my colleague Brandon Louie, who will bring us forward in the presentation.
Thanks, Jonathan. Can y'all hear me? Great to be here with you this morning where I am. Just want to acknowledge and thank the Nisenan, who are the caretakers and stewards of the land where I reside and presenting from. I'm actually going to pass it over to our colleagues, Irene and Murad from Fathers and Families of San Joaquin and from Little Manila Rising in Stockton, California, to talk a little bit about the work that they are doing and they shared in the consultation, and then I'll wrap it up. So let me allow them to enter the space.
Thank you. And this is Irene. There might be some. I'm going to try to share my screen if that works.
Hey, Brandon, this is the facilitator. We're getting a little feedback from you when others are speaking, so if you can manage your mute, please.
I'm sorry, I might need one quick, okay. I might not be able to share my screen, but that's fine. Is it sharing my screen or not, just to see if that worked?
No.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go ahead and present. So my name's Irene. I'm calling from Stockton, which is on the ancestral lands of the Miwok and Yokuts people. And I think like what we were highlighting in the consultation is very similar to a lot of environmental justice communities, communities of color that have been impacted by a lot of neglect and policies that bring in a lot of environmental pollution. So from where we are, we're have a lot of farm workers, and the Central Valley is known for growing a lot of the produce to feed the nation, and yet at the same time has a lot of food insecurity, a lot of extreme heat in the summers, bad air quality from a lot of freeways that box in South Stockton, and lack of green spaces. And it's also one of those cities, and there's other cities in the U.S. that's impacted by a policy called redlining, and what that ended up causing was just a lot of citing of environmental hazards, toxic waste, the building of a port, as well as freeways that displaced communities of color. And that has led us to having one of the highest asthma rates and air quality issues. And also, we have a rich natural resource in the San Joaquin Delta that's in the midst of a water fight, and a lot of our community to try to protect that natural space, as well as the native species that reside there. And then I think I'm going to pass it to Murad, one of our youth, who's going to highlight just what activists and young people have been trying to do in Stockton to change things.
Hello, my name is Murad, and I'm from Stockton. There's a lot of work in Stockton that has been going in the last 4 years by youth. Oh, sorry about that. By youth and young people to take environmental action and bring in investment into the South Stockton. We helped start the Green Lining the Hood initiative, which aims to reverse redlining by increasing investment and building in more green spaces and environmental action to South Stockton. This includes work to build community gardens, plant trees, learn participatory research methods, and community-led environmental testing and monitoring. I personally have been involved with many environmental and garden clubs in and out of my school. Inspiring other youths like me to involve themselves in these garden clubs is what will help us in the future. And thank you for allowing us to highlight our work in our city.
Thank you both. And I will just bring it up to kind of wrap it up here as well. Really appreciate Murad and Irene for being present today. Just a couple of other things that I want to share from what the young people as a part of this consultation brought up. You know, there were a number of visions for the future and for a healthy, equitable environment that young people wanted to highlight. You know, a great deal of that also involved just their engagement and their voices being heard and their leadership being acknowledged, and them really being the driving forces in a great deal of this work. So just kind of bringing some of the voices that were shared during our session to the fore, and kind of highlighting some of the you know, additional ideas that young people also brought to the fore when it came to support that they would need in order to continue to do the work that they're doing. You know, we have young people who are organizing against fossil fuel extraction, who are greenlining formerly redlined neighborhoods, who are working on air and water monitoring, legislative advocacy, youth participatory action research efforts. And when it comes to support that they identified, these are some of the ideas that were generated as a part of our conversation. There were certainly a number of, you know, folks who talked about funding and the need for really supporting both programming and kind of youth-led efforts that allow this work to happen. Also around kind of environmental education and the ways in which young people kind of connecting to what Sally was talking about, right, can be kind of activated and brought into this work and their experiences acknowledged and supported. And also the ways in which they're really wanting to be at the forefront of this work as well, knowing about these opportunities, having the freedom to direct their own efforts and work forward as well. So just really want to kind of end with these thoughts from the youth and just some kind of final acknowledgments. I know I'm almost at time here, but just really, I think we recognize the importance of looking at climate justice as a framework within which a really broad spectrum of issues and activism can be taking place. And certainly amongst these three groups, that's been the case. Also just recognizing the ways that this work can really promote youth leadership development and skill building and agency. And just also acknowledging the multi-generational aspects of the work, particularly the work that these three orgs are doing, but also the needs of us as adult allies and supporters also, you know, not just passing this off to young people and saying good luck, but how are we really, supporting their efforts and being allies in these efforts as well. So with that, I will stop and pass it back to the organizers.
Wow, thank you so much to the US teams. Yes, everyone, please offer your support and words in the comments in the chat. This is some incredible work you've all been doing, and thank you so much for sharing it all. I want to, again, just let's have a shout out to the interpreters, the incredible interpreters for the work that they've been doing this morning amidst a lot of tech challenges. And I also want to give a shout out to the incredible tech team who is helping them and working through all of those issues. So thank you to everyone that's behind the scenes enabling this to happen and for us to hear these incredible experiences. We are running a little behind. We are adapting in real time. This is life, and we're going to keep moving forward, but we do want to give everyone a 10-minute break now, and we particularly need to give this 10-minute break to the interpreters. So we're going to give a 10-minute break, and we're going to come back here, and we're going to get to hear from the Mexican team and videos that the Mexican team has presented in the work they've been doing over the last year. So thank you again to all of the presenters who have gone so far and for sharing your voices and perspectives. Amazing. So we'll see you back in 10 minutes. How's everyone doing? It's been a packed morning. Can we see some emojis? Stuff in the chat. How are you? Okay, we've got some. Great. And how's your energy? I know it can be a long time to sit in front of a screen, and yet it's so incredible to hear about all the actions and things that people have been doing. And I know the next presentations are also going to amaze us all. And the next presentations we are going to be hearing are a series of videos that the Mexican team has recorded in advance to present their findings. And I know many of them, if not all of them, are here actually in the consultation. So we'll be able to chat with you in the chat and again, follow up after this session. But we have these recordings that we're going to play and they are all in Spanish. And I understand that translation is in place. So if you need translation to listen to the Spanish, please get that set up now by going to that little emoji to the left of the CC button on the top panel of your screen.
And Rebecca, we will pause here for about 20 seconds to give the translators time to switch over to translate from Spanish.
Perfect. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing, Fred. They're loading up these videos for us. They're looking great.
You're welcome, of course.
Fred, I'm not able to hear any audio or other.
I am not hearing it as well. Let me hold on. We'll try again.
Hi.
Hola,
Sorry, Fred.
Fernanda Corona, de la
Fred.
Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana en México. Y
Fred.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. We can hear the audio now, but I've just learned from Jocelyn that that Jocelyn is going to speak actually before the presentations. I'm so sorry, Jocelyn. I hadn't understood that. So let me pass the floor to you, Jocelyn.
Ok, voy a hablar en español. ¿Está listo la traducción de español a inglés? Bueno, si alguien puede escucharme en inglés, por favor den
una reacción para saber que está funcionando. Uy. O si pueden escucharme. Ah, perfectísimo. Ok, bueno. Hola de nuevo, mi nombre es Silvia Yoselina Hernández Basurto. Voy a dar una breve introducción al equipo de México, pero antes me gustaría presentarme. Soy científica de la Tierra en Formación, me especializo en el estudio del océano, pero actualmente soy directora de proyectos en NAHUB AC. Y NAHUB es una asociación civil que se encarga de empoderar a la niñez, a la juventud y a la adolescencia a través de diferentes proyectos sociales sostenibles. Y es por ello que para mí es un verdadero honor formar parte de este comité asesor intergeneracional y trabajar en una consulta tan relevante para Norteamérica. Y de verdad yo me siento pues muy feliz y emocionada de ver participar a las personas delegadas en México, a quienes quiero invitar a hacer uso de su palabra, participando desde la empatía, hablando a través de sus experiencias y de sus realidades, pero también mirando a otras realidades de nuestro país y si es posible a otras realidades de toda la región. Porque tenemos que ser conscientes y somos conscientes del privilegio que tenemos al estar aquí. En esta consulta hemos estado hablando de dónde estamos y hacia dónde nos dirigimos. Hemos recibido muchas palabras llenas de inspiración y me alegra muchísimo saber que todas y todos tenemos un mismo objetivo. Entonces es importante saber reconocer dónde estamos, a dónde vamos, pero también para mí es muy importante reconocer de dónde venimos. Hoy les quiero compartir algo que viene desde mis raíces. Kishacatlil mintankashek, kakilmi pulakni tiyak, kakilmi minaku. Háblame desde la raíz, háblame desde el vientre de la tierra, háblame desde el corazón. Y ahora doy paso al equipo de México que hizo un excelente trabajo para poder llegar a esta preconsulta mexicana y hacer llegar a las personas delegadas que tenemos aquí. De verdad estoy muy orgullosa de que se encuentren aquí participando y que lo estén haciendo de manera excelente. Muchas gracias.
Hola, buenas tardes. Soy Yolanda Corona de la Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana en México y me ha tocado darle la bienvenida a esta consulta sobre el derecho a un ambiente sano en Norteamérica. Y quería, bueno, yo comentarles que no sé si ustedes saben, pero ya se han hecho 2 consultas, una en Latinoamérica y otra en el sudeste asiático, para ver cuáles son los problemas que tienen los jóvenes en sus comunidades. Es también importante remarcar que niñas, niños y jóvenes pues tienen grandes riesgos medioambientales y lo que observamos es que, por ejemplo, 1,5 millones de niñas y niños mueren cada año por causas ambientales que son fácilmente previsibles, que eso es lo más triste. Por otro lado, también uno de los retos que ustedes enfrentan es que las autoridades gubernamentales no les permiten a ustedes realmente entrar en los espacios en donde se toman las decisiones importantes sobre el medio ambiente, ni tampoco abren espacios de participación en medios públicos y políticamente relevantes. Otro problema es que ellos tampoco les dan información sobre los problemas ambientales. Sin embargo, a pesar de todos estos, digamos, retos, lo que observamos es que hay muchísimos jóvenes en todo el mundo que están comprometidos por el cuidado del planeta, como ustedes, y por eso, bueno, pues no me queda más que darles la bienvenida y desearles que realmente disfruten esta consulta. Muchas gracias.
Hola a todos, me da mucho gusto que nos acompañen a lo largo de estos días de consulta. Mi nombre es Rubén Darío Martínez Ramírez y soy parte de la Red Universitaria de Cambio Climático de la UNAM. Como quizás ya han experimentado, el deterioro ambiental se presenta cada vez más de forma frecuente y en algunos casos con mayor intensidad. Es importante generar este tipo de espacios para que nosotros podamos compartir y debatir sobre nuestras experiencias y discutir sobre posibles estrategias que podamos implementar. Y no olvidar que de igual manera es enriquecedor poder compartir estos espacios con otras juventudes e infancias de la región norte de América, como es el caso de Canadá y Estados Unidos. Les deseo lo mejor en esta consulta. Hello everyone, I am very happy that you are accompanying us throughout these consultation days. My name is Rubén Darío Martinez, and I am part of the UNAM Climate Change University Network, REDUC. As you may already experience, environmental deterioration happens more and more frequently, and in some cases with greater intensity. It is important to generate this type of space so that we can share and debate our experience and discuss possible strategies that we can implement. Without forgetting that it is equally enriching to be able to share this space with other youth and childhoods in the North American region, such as Canada and the United States. So I wish you the best in this consultation. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to pause here for 15 seconds. The next videos will continue in English for the next 21 minutes. We'll continue in 10 seconds.
Hi everyone, my name is Carla Morales Lara. Hola a todos, mi nombre es Carla Morales Lara, and I'm part of the team that organized the pre-consultation here in Mexico. First of all, I thank you very much to everyone for your participation in this consultation. And now I will make a brief presentation of what we have been doing here in Mexico to prepare for the Phoenix consultation. Y a todos los chicos, a los delegados mexicanos, les recuerdo que ustedes ya vieron esta presentación en la preconsulta, vieron la presentación de los resultados. Entonces, bueno, las gráficas están en español, igual las pueden entender. Yo voy a ir haciendo la presentación en inglés. Okay, well, first of all, I will mention the team that created and organized the pre-consultation in Mexico, because this consultation has as an objective to include young people voices. They start for reuniting a team of young people from different academic organizations to create and organize the pre-consultation. These young people belong to different associations and environmental groups. They have collaborated in the design, application, and diffusion of the Mexico pre-consultation. And they also collaborated in the application and design of the Phoenix consultation itself. Their names are Maritza Isla, Fabio Alfaro, Darío Martínez, Ana Garnier, Pamela Robles, Alejandra Santaella, myself, Carla Morales, and also Yolanda Corona, who was the one that reunited this team of young people in first place. So now I'm going to explain to you, what did we do here in Mexico? The first step was to bring together a team of young people and people with experiences in working with children and with environmental issues to start working on the design of the pre-consultation. The second step was to design 2 surveys that has as an objective knowing the environmental problems that children and young people face here in Mexico, and what were their opinions and feelings about those environmental issues, and also what were they doing to help to solve these problems. And if they're not doing anything, why? We designed 2 surveys focused on 2 different groups. The first one was designed for people between 8 and 29 years old. And the second one was for children under 8 years old. Both surveys include information that makes it possible to distinguish whether people belong to a vulnerable community like migrants, people with disabilities, people living in shelters, etc. The survey for children under 8 years old was designed with pictures to make it more fun, more kid-friendly and accessible. Also Yolanda Munoz, who is part of the Canadian team, provided us with feedback to make sure that these both surveys were more inclusive. Both surveys were launched on March 30 and April 8 of this 2021. And well, now I'm going to present you the results we found on these surveys. Just give me a second. Okay, ready. Okay, so it was the Mexican consultation on the right to a healthy environment. Well, one of the first questions we asked is what are the states of origin of the people who answered these surveys? The participation percentages are shown in the graphic, and as we can notice, the highest participation rates were from Mexico City, Puebla, Veracruz, and the state of Mexico. Here you can see the percentages of participation. One of the most important questions we asked on the surveys, at least in my opinion, was how do you picture the world in 10 years? Here, 23% said that they imagine a world with clean water, with sustainable development, with fresh air, with no pollution, with good coexistence between species, with more green areas and solidarity. But 69% vote that they imagine the disappearance of a species, they imagine chaos, they imagine overpopulation, everything polluted, a lot of pandemics, even humanity disappearing, and also war. And 8% remain neutral. Then we asked them, what do you think that the authorities in your country should do to solve these environmental problems? And they answered 21%. Here is not, you can see it, but it's 21. 21% vote compliance with existing agreements and legislation. 29% vote environmental education and awareness raising. 27% vote sanctioning not compliance with environmental regulations. 23% vote legislation and public policies with an environmental perspective. Here. So these are the solutions that they believe that the authorities should be doing to solve these problems. Then we asked them, what are the main environmental problems in your community? And the answers were 21% vote that the water was like the main problem, the pollution of the water in general, and also the lack of water and the bad distribution of it. 16% vote like problems with the green areas in general, they are absent or they are neglected. 15% vote air pollution. 12% vote toxic environments. Also 12% vote deforestation. 11% vote climate change. 6% vote noise pollution. 4% vote mega projects, and 3% vote crop contamination. Then we asked them, how is it affecting you, your community, and the environment? Here, 46% vote that water scarcity affects the quality of life in basic needs such as bathing, drinking, and washing. 34% vote deterioration of the place where they live and of the green areas. And 20% vote that it affects health, such as creating respiratory problems. Then we asked them, what would you like to do to help solve these environmental issues? And they answered this. Well, take care of green areas and plant trees, 17% vote for that. Then be responsible with the consumption of water, electricity, gas, etc. 70% vote for that also. Then reduce, reuse, and recycle, 15% vote for that. Then raising awareness, among others, 15% vote for that. Then participating in forums for discussion and creation of programs, laws, and projects, 13% vote for that. 12% vote for environmental activism also, and 11% vote demanding justice from the corresponding authorities. So this is what they would like to do to help to solve these problems. Then we ask them, what prevents you from taking action? Like, what's stopping you from mobilizing in this topic? 1% vote that they don't believe that it's important. 0% vote that they believe that it's not their responsibility. 27% vote that there's a lack of institutional support. 27% vote for that. Then 22% vote there's a lack of time. Also 22% vote that there is a lack of inclusive spaces. There are no inclusive spaces for children, for young people, and also for speakers of other languages. 14% vote that they don't know how to do these actions. They don't know, like, what do they have to do? They don't know how to do it also. 9% vote that it could be dangerous. And this is very important. Here in Mexico, Mexico is one of the most dangerous countries for being an environmental activist. So this is very important too. And 5% also vote that there are no spaces accessible for people with disabilities. Then we ask them, what environmental problems do you think should be addressed most urgently in Mexico? And what environmental problem do you think should be addressed most urgently in your community? And the answers were, the first one that they believe that is most urgent to try to solve it is the lack of water, and also the bad distribution of water. The second one is the deforestation and taking care of the green areas in general. We believe that this is the second more important one. The third one is air pollution. They believe that this is the third more important environmental issue. And the fourth one is garbage, the issue with garbage in general. Then we ask them, what actions have you taken towards the realization of this vision? What actions are you doing right now to try to solve these problems? 0% answered that they're not doing anything. So I believe that everyone is trying to do something at least. 29% vote that they are being more responsible with the consumption of water, light, gas, etc. 18% vote that they are trying to avoid wasting water. 16% vote that they are trying to take care of green areas and planting trees. Also 16% vote that they are trying to talk about this issue with their family and their communities. 12% vote that they are trying to have this environmental responsible consumption, like trying to not consume plastic and that kind of stuff. Then 7% vote that they're trying to use a non-motorized transportation, like they're trying to use bicycles and skateboards and something like that. 6% vote that they are trying to do environmental activism, and 6% also vote greater involvement in political decision making. I'm sorry. So the last one, I believe that this is kind of the most important one for me and also for the team that was organizing this pre-consultation in Mexico. Why? This is about how do you feel about the environmental crisis? How is it making you feel? Sometimes we tend to think that the emotions are not important or that they are not very important. But we have to believe that the most important thing around the environmental issue, the environmental crisis in general, is this. The most important thing is the feelings, the emotions. Why? Because this is what mobilizes people into doing something, like trying to be an activist or trying to mobilize, or this is what stops people from doing anything. So, well, 0% of the people that answered the surveys say that they were happy around the environmental situation. 0% vote that they are happy. 21% vote that they are frustrated with the situation. 18% vote that they are sad. 16% vote that they are mad. 15% also vote that they are scared. I'm sorry, this one was 16. 15% vote that they are scared about the situation. 40% vote that they are disgusted. 30% vote that they are anxious around the situation, and 3% are resignated to believing that there's no change. So this is very important. Why we have to start believing that in order to change the world, we first need to change the way we see everything. We need to start believing that emotions are one of the most important topics to talk about when we are talking about environmental issues. And okay, those were the results of the surveys we applied. Okay, so after these surveys, the third step on the Mexico pre-consultation was the online consultation. On the online consultation, well, this one was applied on May 28 and 29 of this year. And there we showed to children and to young people the results of the surveys they have answered before. And after that, we have a dialogue based on 3 main questions, which are the following ones. The first one is, where are we? With this question was kind of answered with the presentation of the results of the surveys that they have previously answered, because in these results we can see like where are we standing here in Mexico, like what's happening here. So the first question was kind of solved with that. The second one was where do we want to go? So here we talk about what are the desirable futures for us. And the third one was, how can we get there? Here we dialogue about possible strategies to reach that desirable futures that we want to achieve. These questions were answered in separated breakout rooms, and there children and young could develop their ideas and perspective on those subjects. At the end of the online consultation, conclusions were drawn about what each breakout room have talked about, and the consultation was concluded by explaining to children and young people about the Phoenix consultation. Finally, the last part of the Mexico pre-consultation was a 2-day conference workshop in which the delegates from Mexico listened about different topics like climate change, gender and climate change, what are the NDCs, also about environmental justice, and finally about sustainability and responsibility in the caring for the environment. And well, that was pretty much what we were doing all this time here in Mexico. This was a pre-consultation here. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you learn a lot here and also that you can enjoy this Phoenix consultation experience. I wish you all the best, and thank you.
Mexico is known for its incredible landscapes and natural resources. For centuries, the Mayan, Aztec, and Toltec people built their lives there. But today, climate change is transforming Mexico's geography, environment, and future. Mexico is home of 12% of the world's biodiversity. It is considered the second country in the world in ecosystems and fourth in overall species. Approximately 2,500 species are protected by Mexican legislations. Protected natural areas include 170,000 square kilometers in Mexico. Unfortunately, the structure of our civilization is leading us toward an impending disaster. Climate change has become the biggest long-term threat to this country's future because it is linked to water, health, air pollution, traffic disruption, floods, housing vulnerability to landslides, which means we can't begin to address any of the country's real problems without facing the climate issue. Climate change touches every aspect of our lives. Mexico's water and sanitation crisis. In Mexico, millions of people are at risk from a lack of adequate water due to climate change, and water supplies are already strained because of other factors like population growth. The challenges include water scarcity in certain parts of the country, inadequate drinking water quality, wastewater treatment, and food security. More than half of Mexican households with access to piped water receive services on an intermittent basis. Now, more than ever, to save water is critical to the health of families in Mexico so they can prepare and protect themselves from the COVID-19 pandemic and other diseases. Air pollution. In accordance with the World Health Organization guidelines, the air quality in Mexico is considered moderately unsafe. Contributors to poor air quality in Mexico include vehicle emissions, waste burning, and the mining and petroleum industries. Seasonal variations exist with high levels of air pollution during the dry seasons due to more UV radiation. Pollution levels also increase during the rainy season. Available data indicates that Monterrey, Ecatepec de Morelos, and Mexico City have high levels of air pollution. Agriculture. Climate change is making Mexico's land far less suitable for growing food and crops, and that's already impacting families today. In fact, climate change may lead to 40 to 70% decline in Mexico's current cropland sustainability by 2030. We're talking about Mexico potentially losing over half its workable farm in less than 12 years. Loss of cropland can mean malnourished population, displacement, and ultimately permanent migration, especially by rural families. Environment and land defenders. At least 18 Mexican land and environment defenders were murdered between last year, while 100 more were threatened, beaten, and criminalized. Mexico is one of the most dangerous countries in the world to defend environmental and human rights. The situation for defenders was exacerbated by energy reforms in 2013, since when scores of renewable energy megaprojects have been imposed on rural and indigenous communities without adequate consultation or compensation. The data shows persistent structural violence against defenders of environmental rights in our country. The violence is spread across the country, but defenders in the southern state of Oaxaca have faced most attacks over the past 8 years. Oaxaca, one of the country's poorest states with the highest proportion of indigenous people, is rich in natural resources such as minerals, rivers, forests, and natural gas.
Next video is in Spanish. We will pause here for 20 seconds to give our interpreters time to switch, and we will continue.
Hola, mi nombre es Andrea Cortés Islas, tengo 24 años y soy de la Ciudad de México. La problemática ambiental que más me interesa es la lucha por la soberanía alimentaria.
Hola, me llamo Antar, tengo 16 años, vivo en Mazatlán, Sinaloa, y las problemáticas ambientales que a mí más me preocupan son la sobreexplotación de cuerpos de agua y el cambio climático.
Hola, mi nombre es Cristal Abril, tengo 18 años, vivo en el estado de Puebla, municipio Huauchinango, y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es la contaminación.
Hola, soy Cintia Juárez y tengo 23 años. Vivo en la Ciudad de México, en Iztapalapa, y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es la que está relacionada con el agua, es decir, su escasez, mala calidad e inundaciones.
Hola, soy Daniela Córdoba Ramírez, tengo 24 años, vivo en la Ciudad de México y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es la contaminación ambiental y la falta de ejercicios comunicativos que informen al respecto e involucren a la ciudadanía para combatirlo.
Hola, soy Isaac García Chávez, tengo 23 años, soy del estado de Baja California, en la ciudad de Tecate, y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa son los problemas climáticos, sobre todo los forestales que se pueden causar en mi región, y la escasez de agua.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Jimena Villafaña Benítez y la problemática ambiental que me interesa sobre mi comunidad es la escasez de agua.
Hola, soy Daniela Moreno, tengo 24 años, soy de la Ciudad de México y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es la escasez de agua dulce.
Hola, yo soy Carla Dilene, tengo 20 años, soy de la ciudad de Jalapa, Veracruz, y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es la falta de acción de la sociedad por cuidar el medio ambiente y mitigar el cambio climático.
Hola, mi nombre es Rosa Lisbeth Solano Hernández, tengo 23 años y vivo en la Ciudad de México. Uno de los problemas ambientales que más me interesan es la escasez de agua en mi comunidad y la falta de educación ambiental.
Hola, me llamo Sofía Castrejón, tengo 12 años, vivo en Querétaro y la problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es el cambio climático.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Sofía Molina, tengo 12 años de edad y vivo en San Luis Potosí, México. El problema ambiental que más me preocupa es la contaminación y deterioro de los ecosistemas en mi estado.
Hola, mi nombre es Giselle, tengo 14 años y vivo en el estado de Mérida, Yucatán, en México. La problemática ambiental que más me preocupa es el desgaste de áreas verdes y naturales en México.
Wow. That was just amazing. Thank you so much to the incredible team in Mexico for your work and all of your hard work and thoughts and ideas and perspectives. It is clear that we need to find ways for this consultation to never end and to keep networking with each other through various technologies as we move forward. We are all going to need to be working together as much as we can on all of these huge challenges. But with all of this incredible energy and wisdom that we've just heard from each of the countries. What an amazing session. Thank you so much to all of the teams, all of the young people who shared their thoughts, experiences, and hard work over the last year. Thank you to all of you for all of your patience as we navigated time zones, technologies, and languages. Thank you for that. We have to keep finding ways to navigate that, to work across all of our differences on these shared concerns. We are going to take a 5-minute break, and then we are going to go into our next panel, which is only 20 minutes, and before we take our lunch break. So 5 minutes, everyone, and we will come back with our next amazing panel. Thank you so much, everyone.